Hello again. Today we're going to be talking about the literature review. Let's take a look at what it is. First of all, you need to know that this is the longest chapter in a research paper. And of course, it provides the theoretical support for all of the claims and findings in your work. So it's a very, very important part of your research. In fact, a good number of the questions that you're going to be asked during your thesis or dissertation defense will be directed precisely to your understanding of the theory. That means to your literature review. So it is very important that you write a good literature review that later will help you to support your research and to defend it in front of a jury. So, what exactly do we include in a literature review? First of all, of course, you need to include all of the specific theories related to the problem that is stated in a research. And secondly, whatever is known about the problem from other empirical field studies. And of course, we should also talk about the important variables that we're mentioning in our research and how they relate to the main problem. Finally, we should provide a good explanation of what needs to be done in order to advance knowledge concerning the problem. So the theory is for us to take research further, to explain things, but also to propose new things. Now, because the literature review is a very long chapter, I always suggest that you start it from an outline. So the first thing that you need to do is to use the terms on your list as a starting point. Remember the definition of terms that you already have. So you will look at this list and you will discard those concepts that now that you have read a little more, you probably think that are not necessary, and you should include some other concepts or theories that you think will be required depending on how you have now seen the problem or the topic from reading all of the different research that you summarize. So after you discard and include all of these new concepts and theories, you will organize them into groups of related elements or variables. That means that first of all we brainstorm, we came with a lot of concepts, ideas of the things that we need to include, then we organize them, we group them as they belong together because of the relationship to different variables. And finally, you're going to develop an outline or a table of contents for your literature review. So that's the first thing that you need to do. And of course, it takes some time. And normally, you always have somebody to help you, like a thesis director. So in this case, when you brainstorm and you try to come up with your outline, I'm going to help you. I'm going to guide you so that you can get a good starting point to develop a good literature review. Now this is an example of what an outline looks like. If you see, in this case we have three main variables that we're going to be talking about in this research about academic writing. First of all, the nature and purpose of writing, where we have the definition, the types, the elements, and the kinds of text, and so on. The second point, we have different approaches to teaching writing. Some of them are control to free writing approach, the current traditional approach, and so on. Now the third group of variables belong to the stages of writing, because in this paper we're interested in how the students write. And first of all, we're going to talk about brainstorming and outlining, writing a draft, editing, formatting, and so on and so forth. So this is what an outline looks like, and if you see, it's like a table of contents. These are the points that I need to develop if I want to write a paper about the importance of the stages of writing in academic text. So now that you have an outline, you have a list of the things that you need to include in your literature review. The next step, of course, is to look for the information. So you will go to the library again and search for all of the relevant literature, the books, the journals, etc. But you want to make sure that they relate precisely to the points that you have. So you should include only those materials, those resources that are directly related to the research. And then of course, once you have all of the books, you're gonna have a lot of materials, because normally like a BA research is going to be based in, at least like 20-30 different references. So once you have all of the relevant information, you will use your paraphrasing and summarizing skills to select only the most relevant information necessary to perform your literature review. Now, let's talk about selective reading. You're going to have a lot of materials, lots of books, lots of articles, and you need to be very, very efficient. You cannot waste time reading a lot of things, trying to understand everything. No, what we do here in this kind of thing is selective reading. So what are you going to do? You're going to read for specific information, all of the points that are in your outline and nothing else. Okay, so you're going to look for the definitions, the classifications of different kinds, the points of view, the topic sentences, the conclusions, and you have to make copies of this so that you can underline, you can mark, and everything. But remember, this is a selective reading. You're not going to read the whole thing. Just select the pieces and bits that will be useful for your research. And next thing, of course, will be to find the main ideas and then to paraphrase them. You're going to be paraphrasing all the time, and I hate to tell you this, but paraphrasing is a crucial skill in academic writing. Now, of course, you're going to summarize this information in charts or figures or any other kind of visual representation that helps you to summarize, to concentrate, to organize the information. And so finally, you're going to write and organize your notes in a large notebook, or you can also do it digitally on a file. You have to remember always to make the difference between quotations. That means you need to remember at all times by indicating with quotation marks what parts you took directly from the books and which ones you have already paraphrased. Remember that if you do not paraphrase, or if you do not indicate with quotation marks what parts you took from the others, you will probably be plagiarizing information. Now let's talk about the Thesis Bible. Once you have looked for the information, you have found it, you have summarized it, you have paraphrased it, you're going to put it into what I like to call the Thesis Bible. It's called the Thesis Bible because the Bible means a collection of books. And basically, you're going to concentrate, you're going to bring all of the information together into a single note, a set of notes that you're going to use for your literature review. So in this case, for example, you're going to have 3 basic columns in your Thesis Bible. Number 1, the point to develop. That means the concepts from your outline organized exactly in the way that they appear. For example, we have 2.1 classroom management. This is the first point I need to develop. So I have here this definition by Richards, okay, and then I need to include here my point of view. Your point of view is very important because you need to have a critical view of what you're saying. You're just not copying and pasting, and you're certainly not like doing some kind of collage. You are using the information that you have previously analyzed, interpreted, criticized, and the most important thing here, the guiding element, is going to be your point of view. So something else that I need to say concerning the notes from the books is that you should include for every point in your outline at least 3 different authors, 3 different sources, at least 3. Okay, if you have more, the more you have, the better it's going to be, because you're going to have a lot of theoretical support for your research. So this is what a Thesis Bible looks like. This is like a file where like I have all of the information for a little paper that I'm going to write, and if you see, I have the different points from my outline on the left. Then I have all of the notes that I took from the resources from the books and articles that I read. And on the last column, I have my points of view, the thing that I want to say about the different points. Remember that the theory, whatever I took from the book, is only a support for me to say what I'm going to say. In other words, I know what I'm going to say, but I need something that supports my claims, something that shows people that I know exactly what I'm talking about. And here in this last part, you will see, of course, the list of references. There is a list of references for all of the sources that I use for the notes that I have here. So once you have all of your notes, the next step is to develop the outline. In other words, to write your literature review. And of course, something very important that we need to know is that this is going to be a big challenge, because we have to integrate all of the information that we took from different sources, from different authors, into a coherent whole that is going to lead by our own voice as authors. And of course, this is a big challenge, but there is a solution for this. To overcome this challenge, you're going to use your analytical, paraphrasing, and summarizing skills. That means that before you write, you need to analyze all of the information that you have. You're going to see exactly what your points of view are, the things that you want to say as an author, and then you're going to paraphrase and organize all of this in order to integrate like a coherent set of theoretical analysis. And of course, the literature review is a very long chapter and there is no specific overall structure. The thing that you have, of course, is your outline. Your outline is going to guide you. And there is another thing. You have a basic set of building blocks which are called the paragraphs. The paragraph is a unit of thoughts that you're going to use to develop your literature review. And in the next section, we're going to see what the structure of these paragraphs has to be. Now, this is the structure of a paragraph in the literature review. Remember, a paragraph is a unit of thought. So, how are you going to write your paragraph? First of all, you're going to introduce a concept, or you're going to make a point. We call this topic sentence. The next thing that you're going to do is you're going to support what you're saying using references or previous research results that you have in your notes. If you have more additional information, that is more information that goes in the same sense that you took from other authors, you're going to add it. And the next step, very important, if there is some information that is contradicting your main point or refuting it, you have to include it, because remember that what you're doing here is discussing the theory. You're not just using the information that goes in the sense that you want, but you're also going to use information that probably contradicts what you're saying. It is very important that you have different points of view. So if you have some more authors that have some more negative evidence, you're going to add it. And the next step, of course, is to compare and contrast the different points of view. You cannot simply write the information like saying, okay, the authors say this and the authors say that. No, you have to compare and contrast what the authors are saying, to analyze the information, to show that you have a critical point of view about it. And finally, the last element in a paragraph is a conclusion that sometimes, usually, restates the topic sentence, and that's basically the structure of a paragraph in the literature review. You need to make sure when you're writing a paragraph in your literature review that you have all of this information. If you have all of this information, your paragraph is complete. You have a unit of thought that is solid, that is complete. And if you don't, this means that there will be a problem later when you try to defend the theory, when you try to defend your research. I want to show you this example. This is the paragraph that we looked at the beginning when I asked you to look at the different elements of academic writing. If you remember, I show you this paragraph where I talk about the relationship between clothing and second language learning, and I was showing you why this kind of writing is academic and it has a lot of power. And it has power because of its rhetorical structure. If you remember, the information there is false, it doesn't exist. There is no relationship between clothing and second language learning. But because I am using a very strong structure, a unit of thought that is developed in a logical and coherent way, when you read it, you buy it. So if you see here, what we have is the topic sentence, right? There's a strong correlation between the closer a person wears and how successful they could be at language learning. Then of course what I'm going to do is I add the information from the authors, right? All of the authors that I could read that show that what I'm saying is correct. But then later I'm going to include also the information from the authors that found different results from the thing that I want. I'm citing here, for example, this study by McIntosh that found that there is no relationship between clothing and second language learning. So I am doing this and I am citing just one study, but normally if there is some other studies that contradict what I'm saying, I'm going to include to show people that I have the information, that I know what I'm saying, but I also have a very important point to make. Remember, you need to analyze the information from different points of view. Then of course, finally, I am going to come to the conclusion that more research is necessary to test the hypothesis, but it is in fact quite possible that certain aspects of a personality and social status reflected in a person's clothes may be related to language learning success. So this paragraph has the structure that I showed you in the previous slide, and if you see, at every point I am showing you the relationships between the different pieces of information so that you know what my point is concerning these different pieces of information. Now, something that we need to take into account also when we're writing is that we need to distinguish between our own opinions, ideas, and words and those of others. People who read your paper should always be able to know whether what they're reading is your own ideas or not, and also if it's a citation or a quotation. And of course, when you're citing somebody else's work and using their concepts as the main characteristics for your literary review, you're normally going to use reported speech. You use it all the time because you are precisely reporting what other people said or what other people found in the research. So I'm going to give you a list of common verbs and expressions that you can use to cite the author's work. This was taken from the 1994 version of Swales and Thick Academic Writing for Graduate Students. So some verbs that you can use for academic citations are state, observe, emphasize, claim, argue, propose, maintain, suggest, comment, contend, imply, define, remark, declare, report, point out, explain, and assert. There are some others, of course, but these are some very important ones, and depending on the point of view that you want to express about the author, you can use a specific verb. For example, if the author is not very strong in his claims, you can use suggest. This author suggests that. But the author is really making a strong point about something, you could use the word emphasize. So this author emphasizes this and that. Okay, so you have to choose the verb that best reflects what the ideas of the authors are and how he or she is expressing them. Another thing that you can use there is some expressions also for telling for reporting what the authors think. So you know this one very well, according to X, or in the opinion are X, or X expresses the view that, or X holds the view that, or as X states, or as reported by X. And you can use this and try to vary them so that you can like have a text that is easily read, that is not boring or repetitious. And finally, I'm just going to give you some formulas that you can use to refer to previous study when you're reporting research. So you can say X study shows that, or X's research suggests that, or X's results demonstrate that, or X's research provides evidence of, or from X's results it may follow that, or as shown in X's research it follows that this and that. So these are some general considerations for writing a literature review. Of course, this is a summary. We're going to be practice some specific skills, and to begin with that, you are going to go to your task sheet. Okay, it's a Google form, and you're going to answer. There are some examples of some paragraphs and some questions for you, and you may refer back to this lesson. You may watch it again if you need to get some further information, or if you want to review some specific parts in order to solve the task. So that's it for this lesson about writing a literature review. Good luck with your tasks, and if you have some questions, you can write directly to the group or in classroom. Goodbye and good luck again.